Hi, I'm back. So, I'm working on my shadow wounds, which has a lot to do with what I've come out of with the SRA and what we all will be coming out of with being deceived and being programmed into hating ourselves and our lives. So, I had done a card reading and pretty profound reading, and so I want to share it with you. Um, Pretty profound stuff. And I mean, I've been on this road of dealing with my shadow wounds. And for those of you who don't understand what shadow wounds are, they're the shadow in us are the aspects of ourselves that we shove down, we don't like, we think they're dark, we think that they're embarrassing or, too painful to deal with. And we do that in society, don't we? We have ignored, shoved aside, pushed down a lot of things that have been happening in society, and it has become this snowball effect. And now we're dealing with all kinds of bullcrap in society. Um, so, I mean, it's the same thing as a collective and as an individual. So, the more of us individuals who do our shadow work and learn to love ourselves and accept those dark parts and find the treasure in them, the things that we don't notice that are good that we can use in our lives to help us, um, you know, um, then, the more we can, as a collective, heal and change the way we do things on this earth, change society for the better for all of us. So I'm going to start with radical honesty. And see, she's got all this armor on her. And it says, to believe in the facade is to suffocate in the armor of alienation, self-defeat, and self-denial. And I just want to read from this. It's so good. The Mother Warrior assures you that it is okay and not at all a failure or flaw to experience disappointments, betrayals of the heart, and confusion. Rather, this is what it is to be transparently and universally human. She encourages you to look candidly at your current limitations and past the regrets and the things that you wish were not part of your character or life story. The Mother cautions you against continuing to deny any unwanted reality in your life and your uncomfortable feelings about it. It is not okay to ignore what does not authentically fit you, that creates unease or any kind of self-compromise or congruency in your life. While denial seems to be an easy and simple solution to what evokes aversion or discomfort in us, it is not. To maintain the ongoing armor or facade of denial leads to a life on the battlefield of perpetual deceit, manipulation, strategy, and estrangement from ourselves and others. As time continues to go by, what is avoided or denied grows into an even harder and larger landmine to navigate. Pretty cool. So, she's talking about, you know, um, looking candidly at your current limitations and past the regrets and things that you wish were not a part of your character or life story. So, being open here, I'm an open book. So I was a stay-at-home mom forever and ever, and I was a Christian. And when I got divorced, I went hog wild and was acting like a teenager. I made a lot of very poor decisions. I was drinking way too much alcohol, spending way too much time at the bar. I had started to do drugs. Um, I I ended up getting into an accident. Um, and I'm not going to say any more about that. But the thing is that, I ended up with a felony. I ended up with probation. I ended up with all this stuff that I felt very ashamed of. Now, mind you, it was an accident, and accidents happen. And I'm not going to get into, the law and all that kind of stuff. But, I have the opinion that um, there are laws that make no sense, that don't take common sense into consideration. And so we end up, a lot of times when we make those mistakes, we end up suffering a whole lot more than maybe we think we should, but that's just the way it is, and we have to deal with it and take responsibility for the mistake, even though it was a mistake, right? So I take full responsibility for my mistake. I don't like the fact that my punishment was so harsh, but that's just the way it is, and you have to just accept what is, right? So, but in my life, it has caused me unconsciously and sometimes consciously to um, isolate myself, to feel ashamed to take on other people's opinions of what happened, and their bad thoughts toward me, their shaming thoughts toward me, their shaming words toward me. And I have taken on those things and not wanted to deal with it. And so what you end up doing is, in order to survive, you put on these masks, and you just go to work and put on a smile. You just do whatever you have to do to get through the day. And then, one of the things I was doing in dealing with that and trying to cope with that, unbeknownst to myself, was drinking a lot. Because I had stopped for a while, and then some people came against me. And sometimes, people are just jealous of me. People sometimes are just plain jealous of me, don't like the fact that I'm bright, and that I'm a loving person, and standing next to me because of their insecurities, they have to try and bring me down some notches. Well, there's a difference between standing in your power, and knowing who you are, regardless of what anybody else says or thinks, and giving your power away and kind of falling under this, oh, geez, I just don't even want to deal. I just don't even want to be around these people. So, I totally get that, and it's taken me to sit down, and this is where, in radical honesty, you take the time and cut out all the distractions to look inside and ask yourself some questions like, okay, have I always been this way? Like, I remember a time when I was confident. I remember a time when I just full on did not give a rat's ass what anybody around me thought of me. You know, what happened? And so I had to go inside, and you have to take the time to be quiet, and, take the time to, ask your divine support for support. Whoever your God is, or however you see divine spirit, and ask for clarity, and really want that clarity, because they'll bring it. They'll bring it. And so, yeah. And, it is uncomfortable. It is uncomfortable to deal with all this crap inside. And, another card being confusion. So, confusion, growth hurts, heals, and harnesses a way through the uncertainty. Because you know what? You get confused. When you don't deal with stuff, when you're not honest with yourself for a while, and you have to, get honest, you get confused. You get confused about how you got there, what are your thoughts, what are your behaviors, what are your behaviors that are bringing you to keep you in confusion and to not deal with the things that are painful. Well, I had to be like, oh yeah, well, gee, I have been drinking a lot more often. Like, why am I doing that? Like, what? I never used to drink this many times in the week, or what am I doing? And going in and finding this stuff out. But it's not just finding this stuff out. It's also, okay, well, what are you going to do about it? Like, when you've been doing that for a couple months or longer, or, even a few weeks, I mean, it just depends on the person. When you've been coping a certain way for a while, it's a habit. It helps in a certain way. But I had to make the decision, am I going to keep doing what helps me deny and cover up and squash down, which in turn brings me more people who treat me a certain, challenging way? Or am I going to be honest with myself, realize that this is a hindrance on my walk, and put it down and deal with the want for something to cover over, because now the tears are coming, the feelings are coming, Because you know what? It's okay to feel shame. There's like two parts of shame. There's a really bad part of shame, and then there's the good part of shame. I don't know. That's just the way I look at it. I mean, I guess overall, I would say shame is horrifying, but we do feel it, and we do need to deal with it, and we have to have a name for it. So, you know, if I feel ashamed, that means I think I'm bad, like I'm inherently bad. And then there's the shame where you feel like, oh, I shouldn't have done that, you know, but I'll make a better choice. So, you know, I guess to me that's what I'm talking about, you know. So, but I think what I hit is that, oh, I'm inherently bad. You know, I'm inherently bad, so, you know, I can't seem to manifest the everything that I want, you know, fast enough. And so it's a form of giving up, really. So that's a hard thing to face, you know. Um, you know, on my last video, I asked for comments, but I'm telling you, I'm having such a hard time with this YouTube. So I'm gonna tweak it. I think there's another way I can put it through because it just automatically cut off the comments. It's like for kids, not for kids, you know. Anyway, I'll do it the opposite way and see if the comments will open up. So sorry about that. But anyways, so I think those are important aspects to deal with wounds personally from our childhood, you know, is where it starts. You know, of course, most of us understand that, you know, childhood wounds are what create the basis for our adult wounds, you know, and how we've dealt with things all along the way. So, you know, for instance, here's another card, distorted perceptions. And it says, reality is rarely what we are raised to believe it is. Because we create our reality from what we learned as kids, right? And we've not, you know, there's no school, there's been no school for us to understand our inner self, or, you know, a lot of us have just started this journey, or, you know, some of us have started it and are creating a way for us to. So I'm so appreciative of the people out there who have the new concepts and new understanding and work their way through their stuff to bring us new materials. For instance, so like I'm starting a class tonight. It's called Inner Bonding. It is by Margaret Paul, and spiritual wisdom to help you find freedom from inner conflicts, heal your relationships, expand your intuition and creativity, and learn to love yourself. So, I mean, it's like we got to do the work, you know, just for somebody who wants to, we got to do the work, right? And, you know, it's hard to get motivated sometimes. So I'm starting a class. I invited a few people. We'll see who shows up, but if nobody shows up, I'm doing it. You know, that's just the bottom line. You know, I'm not, you know, there's something that you can do. It's motivating when you have other people and you have support for one another and you can talk through things. You know, sometimes you just need someone to talk through. You need a mentor, a friend, a therapist, you know, or whatever, or some kind of online class, or, you know, books like this. I mean, it's like I can sit there and complain that I don't have enough money to take all these big classes that cost hundreds and hundreds of dollars, which I have before, and they've been very beneficial. But you know, this book was $20. You know, all I gotta do is invite some people, you know, and if you don't have anybody to invite, you know, get to know your neighbors, you know, or just start working on it yourself and start drawing and, you know, drawing that to you. Because, you know, the more we work on ourselves, you know, the more we can attract what we want. And if we're lonely, I've heard so many people talk about how lonely they are. And you know what? I totally get you. Like, I've been super lonely. And, you know, I have circumstances. And I'm not blaming the circumstances. I'm just saying it is just sometimes more difficult when you don't have a car, or, you know, you don't live close to anything, or, you know, you work a lot. And with that, you know, I work a lot. Whatever, you know, but Spirit will accommodate me many times to do the work I want to do if I'm going to do it. So, you know, I've had a couple weeks where my my hours went down. My first response is, what the heck? You know, how am I supposed to live off this, blah, 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 and then it was like, oh, that's a blessing, that's a blessing in disguise. And, I was so grateful. I had to pat myself on the back that I became aware of what was going on and fairly quickly, but that comes from doing the work. So, but it doesn't matter where you're at on doing the work. I mean, give yourself a break. You've come this far in this world. This world has been a difficult place to navigate. So give yourself credit, any step you take is a great step. I don't care if it was your first one or you've done it 10 times and then you kind of went off this way and now you're back around. It doesn't matter. You're always right where you're supposed to be. You can only handle what you're ready to handle, and you can decide. That's the beauty of free will. At any point in time, I don't care how old you are, I don't care what you've been through, you can decide to do something different. So, and like just doing this video is really motivating for me. And, my channel is based on what I came out of, because, if I can get through it and, overcome, which I'm still ever overcoming, okay, but I'm doing pretty good, then you can, anybody can. And also just because I know disclosure is coming, I know that some things that we've, as a society, have stuck our heads in the sand about, and, we've been brainwashed. We have to give ourselves a break and at the same time take responsibility so that we don't do this again, and we've all had a part in this, sticking our heads in the sand. So this is doing the individual shadow work will help us with the collective shadow work, and so I'm just trying to help soften the blow, because a lot of people are going to be so shocked at what's been going on right underneath their noses. They're going to have a really hard time with that. And, I say to you, give yourself a break, and find some comfort, around you, because it's okay. It's all right. Most of us are good people. Most of us have been, all of us have been brainwashed, and we've lived in this society that has made anything good backwards. And it's been going on for so long. It's just little by little, it's eroded us. And we don't know who we are. We don't know how to come back from it, but we can. We can. See, look at me. If I can come out of what I came out of, and I'm talking about the most heinous shit humans can do to another human, and non-humans. But if I can survive that, if I can come out of that shame, that because they, you feel so ashamed for having been a part of it, that's, one aspect of it. But if I can come through, that, any one of yous can, so I have compassion for you all. Have compassion for yourself, So, start with the radical honesty. Be honest with yourself. And then, that will help you deal with the confusion, because growth hurts. That's normal. It's normal to feel pain. It's normal to feel ashamed when you realize you should have done things differently, or you could have done things differently. I shouldn't say should. That's okay, because that's coming to that place brings us to a place of making decisions to go a different way. Doesn't that make sense? So, and then, distorted perceptions. And actually, you know what? I want to read from this. This is what, number 7? Because this was really good too. If I can find this. Here we go. Okay. So this is about distorted perceptions. How we experience the world changes throughout life. Such shifts in perception typically occur when an event, a person, a place, or new life stage leaves us questioning something integral to what had been in our understanding of the world of ourselves. Consequently, our perception and thinking shifts irreversibly and changes how we experience our reality. And so they call this the maiden. The maiden's expression is calm and accepting as she observes the world without the distorted lens of the feathered tent. I don't know, there's a feathered tent around her. Okay, so without, because, what's around us, we sometimes can't see past, is what they're talking about. The tent represents the outdated cultural, ancestral, and social conditioning she is awakening from. She stands firm and in solemn awe of the wisdom revealed in her newfound worldview. All that she had been raised to believe about the world and herself no longer applies. She sees beyond how limited and false certain aspects of her perception and understanding had been. With this new perspective and clarity, it is now possible for her to grow beyond, rather than blindly repeat, the intergenerational patterns, fears, and false beliefs that would otherwise have a deterring effect on the life she would go on to live. So, I mean, that's just profound. I've had these paradigm shifts along my life where, like when we have a victim mentality, everything is filtered through being a victim. But when we have a paradigm shift, then all of a sudden now our worldview completely changes from that to responsibility, self-responsibility. Like, okay, well, instead of blaming, instead of, feeling like I can't change anything in my life, now I've had a paradigm shift where I understand that I'm responsible through all my thoughts, beliefs, and actions, on a continual basis, that I'm responsible for my life and that I can change it. And that I can't look outward, I've got to look inward. That's a paradigm shift. And, we do that throughout our lives. Many of us do that in our lives individually, but we're doing that as humanity. We're doing that as a collective. We're having paradigm shifts, and there's more to come, some big ones. So, yeah. So, anywho, what was the other one I wanted to... Oh, angelic assistance. Oh, that's so comforting. Isn't that a beautiful card? Divine guidance, loving support. Because, sometimes it just gets so overwhelming. It's like, oh my gosh, there's so much I have to deal with here. How am I going to deal with all this? But, you're not alone. And I've felt lonely. I live kind of out in the boonies, and it's been like this for years. I mean, if you've seen my videos, you know this. And that can feel lonely, but when I choose to connect with my divine support, I don't feel so lonely. I feel like I can go on. And that doesn't mean that I don't long for companionship. And, honestly, my partner is coming on the way, because that's something I desire. It's something that I'm needing, and that they're needing. It's a divine timing where we're going to be coming together here soon. And I just spent today sending him light, sending him some light. We're both being prepared for each other. And, when we learn to love ourselves, and, it doesn't mean that we're going to have it all together when we come together, but when we are on a path of learning to love ourselves and taking responsibility, and when these two people come together, then it's going to be something that can be lasting and wonderful and joyous. And, when you can accept each other, flaws and all, and know that the other will be responsible for themselves, and you take responsibility for yourself. I mean, that's a much better foundation for a loving relationship, isn't it? I mean, whether it's a man or a woman, whatever, however you do things, but for me, it's a man, so yeah, I spent some time today sending light. You can see my excitement. I'm anticipating. I don't know when, but I I'm being patient. I'm being patient. Anywho, gosh, that kind of threw me off. But yeah. And then also, oh, this was also a really good card that it says deep emotions, unknown feelings, past life influences. And I've been learning about past lives and how they can influence us today. I mean, some of us have been earthbound for a really long time and lived many, many lives here and gained a lot of wonderful knowledge, but also dealt with a lot of BS, and my ancestral line goes way back with the BS, darkness. And so, my generation, me, I carry that. I can transmute it. We can't get rid of energy, but we can change it. And so I'm learning how to recognize what's personally mine, what's from my ancestral line, what's from the people I've been around on a daily basis, and what's from the collective. How to discern the difference, and how to deal with each one. But it doesn't take a lot. You just spend some time away from TV or the other distractions in your life that are distractions. You always know. Well, you don't always know, but I mean, sometimes they're pretty obvious. You spend time dealing with that kind of stuff. So, looking into those things, being curious, doing some research, having some quiet time, being out in nature, that all helps. So, but anywho, so I just wanted to talk about a little bit about some of these cards that I had gotten to share with you. At first I was like, okay, well, I'll just do a reading. And I thought, well, what for? I mean, I just did a reading for dealing with this sort of thing.